A woman called Sarah brought a furry creature to a pet groomer. She told the groomer, called James, that it was a cat and needed to be groomed. James, not suspecting anything, took the creature and began to groom it. As he was cutting the creature's fur, he was shocked to discover that it was not a cat at all. The groomer turned pale and asked the woman, "Is this what I think it is?" As James brushed the cat's hair, he began to grow suspicious. There were some characteristics of this creature that didn't line up with the characteristics of a cat. But he pushed his thoughts aside and continued grooming. Or at least, he tried. Because something caught his eye that he couldn't ignore. As he groomed the cat, the thought of it not being a cat grew more and more in the back of his mind. So, the groomer decided to ask Sarah a few standard questions everyone with a cat should know. But when Sarah failed to answer the questions correctly, he knew something was up. Suddenly, the energy in the room shifted, and Sarah began to look very nervous. She could probably sense the groomer's suspicion. So, the groomer asked her one final question. "Where did you find this creature?" But Sarah's answer shocked him. But what did Sarah bring to the groomer? And where did she find the creature? But before we start our story, smash the like button, make sure to subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you won't miss any new stories. Sarah had always loved exploring the forest that surrounded her small village. She had lived there her entire life and knew every inch of the dense, tangled wilderness like the back of her hand. But today, she decided to take a new route that would lead to her discovery of the cat. Despite her extensive knowledge of the forest, Sarah was always on the lookout for new and interesting creatures to discover. She had a particular love for wild animals, and she spent much of her free time studying them and learning about their habits and behaviors. But nothing could have prepared her for what she would find today. After walking this new route, Sarah came across a small cave hidden among the trees. It was a place she had never noticed before, and it seemed to call out to her with a sense of mystery and adventure. She simply had this odd feeling that she should check inside it, so she did. Without hesitation, Sarah made her way into the cave, her curiosity piqued by the unknown. The cave was dark and cold, but that didn't matter. She had always loved to explore and discover new things, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity. She was just moments away when she encountered something very unusual. As Sarah made her way deeper into the cave, she began to feel a sense of unease wash over her. The air was cool and musty, and the darkness seemed to press in on her from all sides. But despite her growing sense of dread, Sarah refused to turn back. She was determined to see what lay at the heart of the cave. As she pushed on, Sarah finally reached a large chamber at the cave's center. She was quite overwhelmed by the idea that this cave would be this big. She had never been into a cave like this, which impressed her. But not much later, this feeling would turn into fear. When Sarah walked further, she suddenly stumbled upon this strange and peculiar-looking animal and was immediately intrigued. The creature had a long, snout-like nose, a shaggy fur coat, and large, floppy ears that seemed to flop in every direction. It was unlike any animal Sarah had ever seen, and she knew that she had to get a closer look. Despite the creature's creepy eyes, Sarah could see that it was friendly and harmless when getting closer, and she felt a sudden surge of affection for the animal. She knew that she had to help it. But how? It seemed like a harmless cat, but she wasn't sure of it and hoped she wasn't in danger here. As she carefully approached the animal, Sarah could see the devastating state it was in. It was covered in dirt and mud, and its fur was matted and tangled. It seemed to be in need of some help, and Sarah knew that she had to do something to help it. Sarah gently and carefully scooped the animal up in her arms and carried it back to her home. The animal was not afraid and allowed Sarah to pick it up with ease. Sarah walked out of the cave, but as soon as the cat came into the sunlight, something strange happened. Panicked by the sunlight, the helpless animal jumped out of Sarah's arms and sprinted back into the cave. Sarah didn't think twice before running after the animal. However, she soon realized it had stopped and hid in a corner. She gently picked it up and slowly went back outside, step by step, so that little by little, the pitiful creature would get used to the sunlight. Fortunately, the animal eventually adapted to the sunlight. Now that Sarah could see the animal even better, she was genuinely unsure whether it was a cat or not. She had a strong suspicion while in the cave, but now that she was outside, she seriously doubts that. she ultimately chose to bring it home. As she walked through the village with the creature in tow, people stopped and stared in amazement at the strange-looking creature. Some even asked her if it was a cat, but Sarah just smiled and shrugged her shoulders, not wanting to give away the animal's true identity. Sarah didn't even know this. When Sarah arrived home, she carefully placed the animal on a soft blanket and began grooming it. She spent hours combing its fur and washing away the layers of dirt. Gradually, the creature transformed into a beautiful, exotic-looking being. Its shiny coat and calm demeanor made it even more mysterious. Curious to identify it, Sarah grabbed her laptop and began searching for similar animals online. After hours of searching with no clear results, she realized she needed help. Sarah decided to visit a local cat groomer. She quickly found one online and rushed over, excitement overriding the busy traffic. Entering the shop, she noticed the groomers were stunned by the creature's appearance. They'd never seen anything like it and grew increasingly curious. After examining the animal and questioning Sarah, the groomers began to suspect this wasn't a cat at all. The situation quickly escalated. The groomers, uncertain and cautious, contacted the authorities. When the police arrived, they too were intrigued. Experts were called in, tests were run, and the mystery of the creature deepened. Sarah, observing it all, began to feel sympathy for the animal undergoing so much scrutiny. While waiting, Sarah heard a loud noise. The creature had escaped through a window. Alarmed, she rushed out to find it, but the officers offered no help. Alone and worried, Sarah headed back to the forest, the only place the animal might return to. She spent hours searching, following faint trails and scanning the trees. As daylight faded, so did her hope. But just as she was about to give up, a soft rustle caught her attention. She saw a flash of movement and crept through the underbrush. Then, in a quiet clearing, she saw the creature curled protectively around a litter of newborn babies. Realizing they were now more vulnerable than ever, Sarah decided to take them home. But as she arrived, she spotted several police officers stationed outside. She knew she couldn't bring the creatures in openly. Thinking quickly, she parked at a distance and entered through her backyard, unnoticed. Eventually, Sarah managed to get into her house unseen. But sadly, this was only short-term. Fortunately, the animal eventually adapted to the sunlight. Now that Sarah could see the animal even better, she was genuinely unsure whether it was a cat or not. She had a strong suspicion while in the cave, but now that she was outside, she seriously doubts that. She ultimately chose to bring it home. As she walked through the village with the creature in tow, people stopped and stared in amazement at the strange-looking creature. Some even asked her if it was a cat, but Sarah just smiled and shrugged her shoulders, not wanting to give away the animal's true identity. Sarah didn't even know this. At home, she placed it gently on a soft blanket and began grooming it. Hours passed as she carefully cleaned its matted fur, revealing a striking, almost otherworldly creature beneath. Once finished, she turned to her laptop, searching for similar images online, but found nothing. Determined to learn more, she took the animal to a local groomer. The staff was stunned by the creature's unique features, but the curiosity quickly shifted into concern. After some questioning, suspicion grew. Authorities were called. When police arrived, they ran tests and consulted experts, trying to identify the animal. As Sarah waited nervously, the creature escaped through a window. She rushed after it, hoping the police would assist, but they refused. Alone, she returned to the forest and searched tirelessly. As night approached, a soft rustling led her to a clearing, where the creature lay curled around a litter of newborns. Fearing for their safety, she brought them home. But her relief didn't last. That night, the creatures became restless and noisy. A knock at the door, police officers responding to a noise complaint. Despite Sarah's protests, they forced their way in and discovered the animals. Shocked and unsure of what to do, she was taken to the police station. Watching them roughly handle the small creatures left her heartbroken. At the station, the mood was tense. Officers looked at her with suspicion, treating her as a criminal. She was placed in an interrogation room, left waiting until detectives arrived. They questioned her aggressively, but Sarah remained calm, refusing to speak until her lawyer arrived. When he finally did, he assured her that she had done nothing wrong. She hadn't broken any laws, and the police had no grounds to hold her. With her lawyer's support, Sarah explained everything. The detectives eventually agreed to let her go, but only if she signed a confidentiality agreement. Desperate to learn the truth, she signed it without hesitation. Before they could explain, an officer rushed in. One of the creatures wasn't doing well. Since she now had clearance, Sarah was allowed to follow. As they walked, an agent shared that the animal was a rare, prehistoric feline species once believed extinct. Its survival was astonishing, and its discovery significant. In the room, she saw the creatures again, all safe and healthy. It had been a false alarm. Gathering her courage, she asked if she could take them home. After some deliberation, the officers agreed on the condition that she find new homes for them soon. Grateful and relieved, Sarah returned with the creatures she had grown to love and devoted herself to ensuring they were all placed somewhere safe, where they would be cared for and cherished.